This is the Page Publishing Book Club. Good evening, how you doing? How you doing, Robbie? I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. Rob Barrett's my engineer, is on the other side of the glass, and you're tuning in. Yes, you are, because you need a push, an idea, a feeling that you're not alone in that burning desire to write and be published. So let's talk about a labor of love, why don't we? Polly Rose Libsone. Name ring a bell? Well, she was on the show about 3 years ago, and she's back tonight to talk about another heartfelt tribute she paid to her mom in her second book with Page Publishing. She was on a couple of years ago with Immortal Kisses, Confessions of a Poet, written by her mother, and it took her 35 years to edit it and get it all together. Well, after that, she found more poetry that her mom wrote, handwritten in sentence fragments, and it's taken her 3 years to put together Songs of You, a postscript. Polly, by the way, is on the line from Long Island, right here in the New York metro area. And Songs of You is really just the first section, right?
Yes, and that's really my mother's love poetry that she wrote about my father. The second section I titled Songs of the Wind, which are her nature poems again. But you can also see snippets of love in there of my mother for my father. The third section I entitled Encores of You, because they're small little poems that she wrote about my father. But the very first poem that I included in that section I found was a poem that my father wrote to my mother on their wedding day. Oh. And I had to include it. It is so gorgeous, and it tells the story of how they met.
That is so sweet.
It's unbelievable.
How many poems are we talking about in this book?
Okay, now the first book was 215 pages. This book is 136 pages. And there were all those poems that I never knew about and that I put together. Again, I was so flabbergasted when I found all this. I mean, it actually took my breath away. I had to sit and think of why she never said anything.
She probably just figured why.
That's right. After the other one, because the other one was so magnificent. But these two are magnificent. They're magnificent in a different way. It's the same feeling, the same things, but it's gorgeous. It's overwhelming. And some people are telling me that they like this even better than the first book.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how'd you make out with the first book?
Well, poetry is a very hard sell. Yes. People hear poetry, they say, oh my God, poetry. They're not interested. They won't be able to understand it. But the theme is really universal. Even though it tells the story of their romance, it could be telling the story of anyone's romance.
Well, what'd you do with the first book? Didn't you do book signings and stuff? Didn't you do readings?
Well, what happened was, on my own, with everyone I knew, and I got the word out, I did very well. I did 4 television shows with that, and I was in all the media. Newsday did a cover story on my mother and myself for Valentine's Day. I was thrilled. Oh. And all the local newspapers did stories on myself and my mother. Also, 2 magazines did a story on it, which I was thrilled. And WPIX News did a story on the evening news because they couldn't get over what a heartfelt story this was.
So you got a lot of local coverage.
Yes, I did. Now the colleges have picked up on it. And now I'm lecturing at the colleges on the first book, Immortal Kisses. And they are so enthralled. I've been asked back at all these schools. I am so excited. Plus, I have 5 television shows lined up, all public access. They can't get over it, and they want to hear about this new book. They can't wait to get it because they know that what the first one was all about, and they know that this one is equal to it, or maybe even better. And also the Nassau County Museum of Art was so impressed with the book that they're selling both of them in their gift shop. And maybe they said that they could find a way of incorporating my lecture into some exhibit that they have, which I never thought I would ever get from this. But you don't know where it's going to take you. And now this year is the year of the lectures, I call it, with 4 or 5 television shows on the side.
That's great, Polly. You can't ask for anything more than that. You're a local, you're a local celebrity. You really are.
Yes, I am. I keep telling everyone I'm a star. And I keep saying, you will one day say, you knew me when.
Well, we know you right now, Polly, and really this is such a great example of what can happen if you put yourself out there. Like you said, poetry's a hard sell, but clearly it's not impossible. Thanks so much, Polly. Kimberly Barr also wrote a love story. It's her love story called North Meets South. Kimberly.
Well, it's pretty miraculous, and we actually met at Myrtle Beach. I was from Durham, North Carolina at the time, and he was from Appleton, Wisconsin. And I had gone with my family there, and he had actually driven the 1,400 miles from Wisconsin to come to the same place with a group of friends. And it was amazing that my family went to a place that we'd never gone to before. This particular year, we went to a different place, which happened to be where my future husband ended up.
How did you end up meeting him?
Well, we actually just met around the pool and the hot tub, and we just sort of became friends, him and his friend talking to me, my sister and brother-in-law, and then we just started hanging out for those 6 days while we were at the beach. I fell instantly in love with him. We actually exchanged phone numbers before we went our separate ways, but then we actually started writing letters to each other long distance. That went on for several months, and I did not see him from that summer until the following December, when he amazingly decided to drive all the way to come and meet my family.
Nice. What a nice guy.
Yes, and at the time we met at the beach, he had a girlfriend and I had a boyfriend, but neither one of those relationships were going well, and I didn't realize that when he went back to Wisconsin, he broke up with his girlfriend and I broke up with my boyfriend.
How old were you guys?
I was 24 and he was 22.
Did you live happily ever after?
Well, we are living happily ever after. This year will be our 30th wedding anniversary. But the amazing thing is when we got engaged, we had only spent 11 days face-to-face because all of our relationship was long-distance letter writing and phone calls. And when I went to meet his family the following April, that's when he proposed.
Wow, you guys worked fast.
Well, I think we sort of freaked out our family.
Yeah, but you know what? There's a lot to be said for letter writing. That is definitely a lost art.
It is. I actually got to know his heart better than former boyfriends I'd spent face-to-face time with.
Nice. So what are you trying to say with this book?
Well, I would say the message is that dreams sometimes come true.
And you just had a great marriage, perfect marriage.
No, not perfect. That's why the subtitle is A True and Almost Perfect Love Story.
All right, so what's not perfect?
I think with every relationship, it's not perfect. You have differences of personalities, different ways of handling conflicts. We went through many hardships. My husband had a battle with stage 4 cancer. Our youngest daughter had a horrible traumatic event at 16. I went through bipolar depression. There were many difficult places, but we came through. We always loved each other dearly. We really leaned on God to help us through those difficult times, and He always did.
You're saying that you can hang on through those imperfect times and still have a good marriage.
Absolutely.
There's hope, Kimberly. Thanks. Gwendolyn Butts is a retired school psychologist from upstate New York, and she found even the brightest kids, even people, have trouble transferring skills to employment. She knew she could make a difference, and it's what's inspired her to write Dream Now, Build for the Future. Gwendolyn.
That's our motto. Let's build your dream. What do you want to do with your life? What are you doing to make that happen? So I'm going through this process, right? And I said, well, the best thing to do is do a handbook. put down my knowledge and application in a handbook. So that's how we came up with Dream Now, Build for the Future. Let's build your dreams. And in a way of motivating young people, not only young people, anyone who has a dream, how to accomplish that. So that's how the handbook came about, okay? And it gives direct instructions on how to make your dream happen. And who doesn't have a dream? Regardless of what your age is, regardless of your educational status, whatever it is, everyone has a dream, but not necessarily knowing how to make it happen. That's the foundation. So we're going to start with the building block A, and we're going to build on that. And my take on it, I have a little different orientation to this. Work readiness training, so many others have heard about it and know how to do that, but my approach is this, is that we have to start with the basics, and that's core, so vocational skills. I even have my own language.
I was going to say, I never heard of so vocational.
What I've done is I've put two words together, and I came up with a phrase, and it's so-vocational, social skills for the workforce. That's what that means.
What's step one?
Step one is that we do core skills in terms of you can transfer those skills to any situation you're in. It doesn't matter, or any venue you're at. And those skills that have to do with, first of all, attitude, attendance, and achievement. The AAA, I call them. We have customized vocational skills. And you know, and I know, there's a skill set for every career, be it business, education, health, no skills, skilled trades. The package is the core skills that you can take any place you go. That's your skill set. Pick it up and carry it with you. Because who doesn't want you to be on time? Who doesn't want you to have good attendance? And who doesn't want you to have a good attitude? And who doesn't want you to help their company, agency, or program to progress? Who doesn't want to have that? Everybody does. And next, as an expert, I train specifically for the area or career that you want to go into.
Do you have a list of careers?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. For business, analytical, skilled-oriented, or detail-oriented, being decisive. That's for business. Moving on to professional, and that's strong communication skills, good interpersonal skills, and appropriate professional or problem-solving skills. That you got to be objective. You know, you just can't take everything personal. Another one is personal characteristics, honesty, sound judgment, self-discipline. It's helping you to be ready to be the best that you can be wherever you are.
Okay, so do you tie this in? It sounds like something you would tie in with a workshop, or are you going to travel the country and do motivational speaking?
Exactly. I'm going to let the customer decide. I'm going to meet them wherever they are, okay? And these are phases. Like phase one would be buying the book, okay, and then decided if you want to take it further. For example, doing practicums and internships, because my heart goal is to turn this over to whoever we train and let them run with it. Let them be a turnkey for involving other young people, but let them master it, let them control it, let them be there to govern it. Turn it over to them, and I become a consultant to them.
Gwendolyn, if your enthusiasm is any indication, this is going to work out just fine for you. Thank you. Orlando, Daytona, Cocoa Beach. That's where Yasmin Williams visited when she went to see relatives in Florida. Then she moved there, started exploring, taking notes, and next thing you know, she's got a book entitled Fantastic Florida. Yasmin, are we going to find things in your book we will not find anywhere else?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Like what?
All of the different restaurants and the hotels, and to get an idea, feel of the area, because each one of these vacation destinations are so different from the other. You know, if you go to Miami, you have a completely different experience from when you go to Alamorada or Key West. And it's hard to believe that you can go from what like a city to a very rural area in just a matter of hours. And there's so many things that I see here that I don't see anywhere else. You know, the idea of Florida has its own little shops and restaurants and things like that.
The Florida Tourism Board should be paying you, Yasmin.
I love Florida, yes.
You're talking about destinations that people may not know about, that aren't the obvious destinations. Is there one that stands out for you that's little known?
It's not little known, but when I went to Key West, I fell in love, madly in love with Key West. That was my favorite place to be. And, just like anything, there are Floridians that have never gone past, say, 100 miles. And I think for visitors and for people who call Florida home, it's very eye-opening. Like, there's so many places you can go. People like familiarity. They go to the same places over and over again. I met people from the UK who they've been coming here for years. First their kids and now their grandkids, and they just stay in Orlando. And I'm like, wow, you should see how beautiful, Key Largo is. You should really expand your horizons. And so I just feel like this is a great tool to do that. I also have an Instagram blog called Fantastic Florida. I just actually started it not very long ago, but I have a Facebook page with about 3,800 followers. What? And yes. Fantastic Florida, initially I was taking pictures of people that I met around Florida. It was called Faces of Florida. And in the book, the last section, there's some pictures of some residents of Florida. But, I was just really blown away by everything I saw, because you can come here every year for vacation and go to a different spot for 25 years. There's just so much to see and do. That's the whole purpose of the book. It's eye-opening for people who live here and for visitors. Everybody wants to come to Florida, and I feel like they need more information. And for the people who live here, we live where everybody want to come to.
Right.
So I feel it's a great resource for people who live here as well as the visitors. So, yeah.
What's
Thank
next?
You so much.
Are you going to move somewhere else?
No. I am Floridian. I'm Floridian forever. So.
Yeah, right. Over 3,000 followers. Not a bad start, Yasmin. And we're just getting started right here. So much more coming up. Do not go anywhere. This is the Page Publishing Book Club.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you. Printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-204-6099 for your free author submission kit.
Welcome back to the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. A retired social worker, Greg Dillon Snyder's finally getting back to his true love, writing. You got a great title, Greg. Murder at the Mountain Tavern. What's the story?
The story is of a murder that occurred in the mid-1980s outside of this small Pennsylvania town in the eastern anthracite mining area. A young teenage girl was murdered, brutally stabbed, and kind of found in this remote area near the town. Her boyfriend was convicted, of the murder, and it was a miscarriage of justice that, he was innocent at the time, but new evidence turning up 30 years later with advanced DNA testing kind of revealed that another person was involved.
This isn't true, is it?
No, it's totally fictional. The follow-up then is that a criminal investigator, is hired by the local district attorney to reinvestigate the murder and, find out who was the real perpetrator. And the story revolves then around her investigation and what that reveals.
I mean, this is very involved, and you've got so many details.
Well, it kind of grew as I wrote it. I did some writing when I was an undergraduate. I did my undergraduate work in the late 60s, early 70s at Penn State in English. Wanted to be a writer at that point. Did writing as part of my coursework and for fun. And then decided I had to be more practical with my life. Got married a year later and, got into other things that were more demanding, unable to really pursue the writing. So with retirement at this point, I'm able to do much more of that. And as I sat down and started writing the book, I found that it pretty much flowed for me. Each chapter kind of led to the next and developed the plot. I really didn't have a plot endgame in mind, when I sat down, other than that the investigator would absolve the original person who was accused of killing the woman. It was important to me that the characters be strong women, and that it be a women-focused kind of plot and book, because I think women overall are underrepresented in major aspects of society, and that's always been a lifetime issue for me, was to promote, the importance of what women do. Picking a protagonist who is a woman, and the major characters in the book are women.
Well, thanks for that, Greg. As a woman, I can tell you that I really appreciate that. Nancy Say went through a horrifying ordeal, yet managed to turn it into a book entitled Terror of the Red Pants Attack on Dorchester Road. Nancy was not only attacked, it took her weeks to find a doctor who took the time to figure out just how seriously she was injured. Nancy.
Well, June the 28th, 1990, I was robbed, beat, and I was left for dead. The guy put the gun to my head and clicked it, but the gun jammed. And then he grabbed my head, and he just pushed my head into a cement wall so many times, and I started seeing triple walls. And he just grabbed me, and he threw my left shoulder into the wall 2 or 3 times. He kept pulling me back and throwing me into the wall. And then I remember him picking me up and throwing me down some staircase, and after that, I don't remember anything. Like until some guys found me later, and they dialed 911 for taking me to the hospital. And when we got there, they took some x-rays, and the doctor said, you have a sprained shoulder. And that night, when I got home, my speech was almost gone. My husband couldn't understand the word I was saying, and the left side of my body was getting numb. And so I tried to write for him to tell me to take me to another hospital. And then he carried me to another hospital. I said, I'm going to act crazy. I'm not going to leave his office. I'm going to stay there until he look at that CAT scan again. Something else is wrong. And then I heard him scream, oh, my Lord, what have we missed all these weeks? So he gets on the phone, then he called a specialist.
What did they find?
I found that my neck was broken during the attack. And
so 3 weeks since...
3 weeks and a few days had passed. And
you have a broken neck?
Yes, with a broken neck.
Were you able to recover from that?
Well, really recover, because I can't remember the guy's face. All I remember was he had on those red pants. That's why the red pants, the book about the red pants attack. Because the doctor said some of my speech cells had died, and then some of my memory died.
It took you all this time to finally be able to write the book.
I've been writing all these years, but I couldn't get it out of me completely, because every time I start writing, I start crying. And then I put it down, and so I was still having the nightmares so bad. And then I kept saying, Lord, if I can get the story out of me completely, maybe the nightmares will stop. This book is about the attack, like as well as my struggle to find the answers to what was wrong with me. I still have a lot of pain from the surgery, because they messed up some discs, as well in my neck, and so I still have a lot of problems from that.
Did they ever catch the person who did this to you?
I can't remember his face. All I remember is that he had on those red pants. My message is this: if you are struggling with brutal attack that has left you nearly dead, when the doctors tell you to go home and take a pill, you must continue to go on until you find the answer, because there is an answer there that's telling you something else is wrong with you. You need to keep moving forward.
Is there any comfort knowing that, you finally got this book published and your story's out there?
Well, I feel it's a good thing that I finally got it out of me. But it's just like, I need people to read it and know that whatever they're going through, they're not alone, and that they can come out of it a winner.
Finally, a healer who has had experiences you may find hard to believe. Mary Pat Kelly Upright shares them with us in her book entitled Tell Them For Me.
It's a book that I've had in my heart, really, since I was little, from experiences that have happened to me that I was able to put into writing now.
Now, is one experience your daughter, who became paralyzed by a malignant cancer?
That's a true story.
What happened?
Erica, 11 months, she started showing signs that something was going on in her body. And it was a diagnosis of a neuroblastoma in her spine, to where it took 2 ribs and lodged on her lung. Because I had had a spiritual experience in Christ prior, I really sought my God then, and I really cried out to him, because I didn't feel any peace about her receiving chemotherapy. And so through that, I just stood on the unction of the Holy Ghost and what I felt God was speaking to me. And He allowed me to have a transformation, and I could actually see spiritually into my child's back. And in the name of Jesus, I cast that thing out, and I saw it leave. And Erica was totally healed. And even the paralysis was gone.
That's pretty amazing.
I know it is. I know it is amazing. At one point, the doctors really kind of felt sorry that maybe I wasn't accepting her death because it was so bad they couldn't operate. So the head doctor gave me an opportunity to go home with her for a week. And in that week, it just caused me to seek more, Alice, what I had heard and what I believed. And I thought, either this is all true or this is all just a bunch of lies. And at that time, He gave me a little vision when I was praying. And I saw little feet that were bigger than a 1-year-old, but feet that were like an older little girl. When I had that vision as I was reading the Gospels, I thought, God, are you letting me see something in the future? Are you letting me see that if I just believe you, that this is possible? And with that, I went back to the doctors and I told them, I can't allow her to receive the chemotherapy. And I thought, how could I be believing for a healing and then have some chemical that's working against everything that's good in her body? So I just didn't allow it. And they told me that she would live 6 weeks without it. I just stayed faithful and saw that cancer leave when I brought her home.
She's grown up now?
She's 42, and I have 3 grandchildren.
And you have had other experiences like this?
I have had other experiences like this. Not to the depth of casting out a demonic cancer like that. Mostly what I've done in my life came from the reassurance way back when my fiance was killed in Vietnam, and the angel comes to me as a messenger and told me that Jesus had a reason for me. And so I've hung on that and sort of woven that through my life. I have drawn back on that many times and have seen it work in my life and work for others when I'm sent to minister. And I wrote about it, hoping that others see the possibilities for them as well.
That's truly an amazing story, Mary Pat. Thank you. That wraps up another edition of the Page Publishing Book Club. We'll have a new episode for you next week. Come on back or just download the shows when you want them at 710wor.iheart.com. Have a good night, Rob. And you have a good weekend.